Welcome back. While it's fresh in our mind, my colleague Kate spotted something in the Sunday papers. Let us tell you about it. Over to you, Kate.
Oh, well, I just saw an article about the Royal College of GPs gearing up for a tidal wave of anxiety and depression, particularly from business people. So there was an example of somebody who had been required to make lots of people redundant. And so they'd gone to their doctor and been prescribed with antidepressants because there was no time for talking therapy. And it just got me thinking about, actually, people are under huge amounts of pressure. Anxiety and depression are the main psychopathologies at work. So I think 1 in 10 people would suffer from anxiety and depression at work. And this is likely to multiply. But is giving people antidepressants going to be useful? And I thought that would be good for us to chat about.
Annie, you're shaking your head.
I know, I really get so concerned and worried when I see antidepressants as the answer for anything. You know, the really interesting thing was, you know, the first few weeks of the pandemic, we saw organisations really step up and make sure that everybody had what they needed to be able to work from home. And I think the latest figure is about 45 to 48% of people now are working from home. And then in the middle few weeks, there was a lot done by organisations and leaders to focus on people's well-being, check in with them, start having social evenings on Zoom and on all of those things. But actually now, as we move forward, this isn't a short-term thing. So if we can see that tsunami coming that Kate was just saying was featured in the article, if we can see it coming, and I certainly can see the potential for that, then surely the responsibility of leaders in organisations is to start spending time talking to people, asking them really great questions about how are you going to sustain your performance going forward? What support do you need? Particularly if you've got children at home and you've got additional responsibilities, how are you going to both balance your well-being, look after yourself, and perform for the organisation? So questions and then listening. That's what's needed now. And then maybe we won't need the antidepressants.
Yeah, totally true. I wonder if people aren't asking the questions because they're afraid of the answer.
Yeah.
You know, is there a bit of that going on, that actually I can provide you with the desk at home and the technology, and I can organize a quiz evening for the team so we all feel this artificial sense of we're being cared for. But actually we're not asking the questions because we're scared of the answer, or we don't know how to cope with the answer.
I think, you know, leaders feel really responsible, don't they? They feel they should know the answer. And so they don't necessarily even look at themselves and how they're coping, because they're too busy looking after everybody else and working out what their organisation is going to do to respond to this.
I mean, this is a worrying conversation. That are we in reality saying that when the pandemic is over, we're just going to go back to how it was? This is the proverbial rubber band, and we let it go and it reforms its own shape. Please tell me we've learned something from the pandemic, and we'll challenge the way organizations work, and leaders will step up and show that great bravery they showed at the start of the pandemic, rather than they're too busy now or just scared of the answer.
Yeah.
Ellie, what do you think?
I talked in another video about having the courage for leaders to be vulnerable and think about their own self-care. And what I would say now is what leaders need is the courage to be asking those questions of their teams. You know, how are you going to both manage your performance and your well-being as the weeks go by? Leaders don't need to have the answer. They just need to have the courage to ask the question, and then to help people think through how they're going to manage going forward.
Are we uncovering something interesting here around a lot of organizations have seen, we'll create a great place to work, and we'll do that by the sort of proverbial pool table, snooker table, or there's not many organizations can fit a snooker table in, I guess, but the proverbial bean bags and the social aspect of work. And that's completely disappeared during the pandemic because nobody's going into the office. So all of that investment in the physical side of Great Place to Work is being laid bare by managers and leaders who aren't caring for their people, aren't listening and engaging.
I certainly think the challenge for organisations and presumably a topic for a future video for us, is thinking about how people are going to be able to create a cultural environment, an environment of psychological safety when people aren't all in the office together.
Yeah.
That's going to be a really big challenge for them.
Great point. Well, listen, folks, we'll stop it there. We'll be back with that subject. I'm sure we will. How do we create that psychological safe space when we're all virtual? It would be a great subject to pick up in a week or two. We'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.